I recently went on a backpacking trip with my brother. We were using our hammocks, both of us, and the temperature was going from 0 to 5 degrees. It was a very extremely cold trip, that's 0 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And posted a video on that, and there was a lot of interest in a more detailed video on what I was wearing to keep warm, to keep those temperatures at bay. So this video is going to be that. I'm going to go over kind of my winter setup. Now, one thing to understand about these videos, at least with me, is that depending on the trip, there might be a lot of variability on what I take, or at least not a lot, but there's always your core system, but then around that core system, it might fluctuate a little bit. So there's things on this trip that are a little bit different, but in general, this will be pretty much a good winter loadout, and especially that kept me warm on that 0 to 5 degree trip. We'll start from the ground up here. And for me, typically the hardest thing to keep warm are my toes. I think most people are that way. That's just how the body works. It's those extremities that receive the blood last, and of course it cools off the fastest. So first thing I've got going on here are socks, which are a liner. I always have two pair of socks on me. You have a liner and then a wool. This liner, nothing special, guys, honestly. As you can see how they're ribbed, these are actually dress socks. I picked these up at Walmart. What you want to look for is a polyester and a thin material, not thick dress socks, but a thin polyester type of material. And subsequently, I'll use this in summer also. This will help with blisters. So we've got that. We've got a pair of wool socks. I don't have any particular brand, honestly. I just pick up wool socks as I need them. The biggest thing that I have found over the years I've been doing this that helps is not so much this part, although this is key, but it's the actual boot. And I did a review on a pair of boots a long time ago, and they were rated, I think, below 0 if I remember correctly. Anyway, my toes just froze. It's actually a video called Sub-Zero that I did with Nuttin, and you can go look at that one. Kind of a fun video, but anyway, very similar temperatures. Sub-Zero is what it was called because it was actually below 0. And I'll tell you, when we left, my toes were hurting. That was a different pair of boots. And what I ended up getting was, these are actually a Cabela's brand. It's hard to see, but it says right there, Cabela's. And these are 1000 Thinsulate, and I could not be happier with these boots. I've been running them for years. One of the aspects I look for in winter boots is a very, very high ankle support here. Not so much for the ankle support, although for me I need that, but just that high reach to help keep that snow from coming in and getting down and getting your ankles cold. So that's one of the things I look for there. Now, another aspect to help that, and which really makes that a moot point in some degree, but here's the thing, is I don't always wear these. These are Gaiters. These are Outdoor Research, the OR Outdoor Research Gaiters. And these, I think these are called Expedition Crocodiles. Might be the model on this. I'm looking at the tag here. But for me, Gaiters come in sizes and lengths. Some Gaiters are about this tall, and for me, I just don't have a use for those. I typically don't wear Gaiters in the summer. I just don't. In the winter, though, these are fantastic. They go around your boots, so they kind of have a hook on the bottom. They connect to the bottom of your laces here, and so they're covering about right here, and then they go up just below my knee are the size of these. And again, these are just another barrier to keep that snow out. Now, in some cases, I won't even wear snow pants. I'll just wear these Gaiters, and that's enough. But depending on the trip, like we discussed in the intro in this video, I might double up snow pants and these, and that just, one, gives me an extra layer, but two, adds some extra protection of keeping that snow out of coming inside my boots. That's kind of a look at the bottom portion of keeping my feet and toes warm. Now, let's move on to the legs. I've left the Gaiters out on this one because this is kind of that part as well, because they'll go on your legs. And again, keep that layering system going to some degree, but also keeping that snow off. I won't belabor that because we've already talked about them. So let's go towards what is the base layer. So to me, there's I don't know, I guess 3 critical components when I'm looking at the bottom portion of my body or my legs. And that is, you've got a pair of thermals, and then of course you've got something that's going to keep the snow at bay, because you need to stay warm, you need to stay dry. So the thermals I'm running, again guys, this is just something I've picked up. I've had these for years. It looks like they're dual fold. You know, some brands I'm really specific on and I really like. And other things I just kind of pick up because it was on sale, it was affordable or whatever. This is one of those cases. These have been great. These are nice synthetic and they work wonderfully. You need a pair of thermals. And while I'm thinking about it, I wanted to roll this out in the intro but did not. But we kind of need to set the tone for this and some expectations in these videos. And really it goes for all my videos. This is what works for me. This is what works for my body type, and this is what works for me in my area. So your areas may differ. So you can go a lot lighter with some of this stuff, or you may need to go heavier with some of this stuff. Next, I had just a pair of 511 pants. Nothing spectacular or specific about the 511, other than I do enjoy just the various pockets. My other pair of pants that's more of a synthetic, it's actually a blend. I like them, just I don't have the belt on them so that I can run stuff off my belt, be it a gun, be it a knife. And so these pants are a little more set up for that. So that's what I prefer. Now, this part might get a little interesting for some. These are not winter pants. They're not insulated pants. These are my rain pants. The reason I go with just rain pants, and while I'm thinking about it, these are Columbia. And the reason I go with rain pants is because I'm trying to be financially careful with purchasing my gear. So I try to use what I have in multiple scenarios. And again, over the years I've been doing this and the various temperatures being at 20 degrees down to below 0, this has worked wonderfully for me to use this layering system with the thermals, with the pants, and this to keep the snow at bay. Has worked fantastic. What you want to be careful though of rain pants, be it summer, be it winter, is rain pants are not created equal. I've wore very cheap pairs of rain pants and they've worked to keep the moisture outside from getting in. They've worked great that way. If you're camping and you're not moving a lot and you just need to keep the rain off, some of the cheap stuff might be what you want to shoot for, if that's all you need. But if you're hiking, if you're moving, what happens is a lot of them are not breathable. So therefore, yes, you'll keep the moisture from outside coming in, but the problem is the sweat and the moisture that your body generates from within does not escape. It traps it in there and then you get soaked. And I've had this happen, you get soaked from the inside. So when you're looking at this type of thing, these are one of the things that cheap, if you're going to be moving a lot, backpacking, that kind of thing, cheap is not good. You want to go something that's going to be breathable, and I'm not talking about a $1,000 pair of pants here, but you need to go with something reasonable that's going to breathe well. That's something you really need to look for. Another aspect I look for when I've got these type of pants, this isn't a pocket, but what this is it's a hole to allow you access to get into your pockets inside. And I find that's always a struggle because it's not very big and sometimes you have big gloved hands and the pockets don't necessarily align with maybe what you're wearing underneath, but at least it gives you some access to get inside and get the things that you have inside. Hence the ribs pack. That's why I like that so much. Now let's move on up to the core system, or what, shirts, coats, that kind of a thing. Upper body stuff here, going back to what I previously mentioned on this one, that this trip I knew was going to be exceptionally cold. So I went a little heavier on this trip than I would maybe on some other trips. But I pretty much start out with the same stuff. So my base layer type of stuff, if I've got a t-shirt, this is a synthetic t-shirt. This is a Champion brand. This is actually a very cheap, affordable brand, and it's worked out great for me. This thing, I love it. This is, I don't know what brand this is. This says Polar Max. I'm not sure if that's the brand or not on this. But what it is, it's a merino merino wool. It's a little bit expensive, but oh man, guys, I love it. This stuff keeps me extremely warm. It's pretty comfortable. If you've ever worn some of the old wool itchy stuff, this is not like that. This is more of a, gosh, I don't know, maybe a cotton synthetic feel, kind of a mixture of that, if that makes any sense. It's not cotton, it's merino wool. But this is, I really like it. So synthetic shirt, merino wool, long sleeve shirt on this. And then I doubled up kind of on my layering with this long sleeve synthetic shirt. And another thing you guys want to think about on this video is going to be a little bit verbose. You guys asked for details, so here we go. You want to think about sizing when you get these things, because if you want to layer, you need to layer. You want to think about maybe getting sizes a little bit bigger when you get to your outer layers, because you're going to have a whole bunch of clothes underneath and you don't want to feel them really tight and constricted, and also you need that for the layering to work properly. I went with another synthetic jacket. This is also Columbia. You know what? I'm a big fan of Columbia, actually. It's not the cheapest stuff out there, but it's certainly not the most expensive. But what I find about it, it's kind of that good mid-range, and it works. So I've been really happy overall with all the Columbia stuff that I have purchased. Now this one is a zip-up jacket. One of the nice things about having a zip-up jacket is if you need to vent a little bit, even in 0-degree weather, guys, when you're hiking, you're working hard, you're trying to move through the snow, man, you can get really, really hot. So sometimes it's nice just to open this up and do a little venting. Next, and this would be the final layer on the outside, is I had this jacket. Now, this, you can see, is not a waterproof, but for this trip again, and my area, because it was so cold, we have really, really dry snow when it gets that cold. And once it gets on you, you can pretty much shake it off. Now you have to be careful, because sometimes if you get a nice, coating of snow on here and then you're by the fire, of course that's going to melt it and it's going to release moisture. But by and large, this trip was a very dry snow. So I felt it was appropriate to go with something like this. Not only that, but this is a really, really nice warm jacket. There's the brand right there. This whole system, so I went a little heavier than I normally do with the layering, worked great for me. So again, I had the synthetic shirt, I had the merino wool long sleeve, another synthetic long sleeve, this jacket, zip-up jacket, and then another coat to go on top of that. This allows you to really regulate that temperature. If you're working hard, you can shed a lot of those layers. And I've been out in 0 degrees in a t-shirt. That was it, because I've been working so hard. And this actually, for both outdoor use, and I had a job. I worked for an armored truck company delivering in the winter. I was just down to a t-shirt because I was moving so much coin into this bank at one point. These people walked by and they saw what I was doing. They were all bundled up and they're like, how are you in a t-shirt? It's freezing out here. But again, if your body is moving, again with me, man, I really need to layer or delayer so you're not sweating. Once you start sweating, ooh, it's a bad combination, especially in those temps. All right, now that we're done with that, let's actually move on to gloves. I'm going to make that a separate category, and you'll see why in just a second. I'm still trying to be weight conscientious when I go out. Different trips require different things. If I'm going on a long, huge backpacking trip, we're going to bag Kings Peak, for example. For those that don't know, it's a fairly long backpacking trip, and you need to move. Well, I'm not going to take an axe on that trip. It's just too heavy. And the knife, I'm going to be a very light knife, because I just don't, that's a trip where I'm not going to be doing a lot of firework and prep. It's just more about getting to the peak. So with this trip, one, we weren't going in very far. Two, I knew it was going to be cold. And so bringing several pairs of gloves, and actually this could be considered one pair sort of. Well, let's just dive into it. So these are Burton gloves. All of this came together. So this is a very thin layer of gloves that you wear and then put these on. Again, it's just that layering concept. The one nice thing about these is they have this zipper on the back so you can stick like a hot hand in there and help. I've never used that feature yet, but these gloves I've really been happy with. They just work extremely well, again, with these too. Now, just out hiking, using some poles or just out, these work great for that. They're expensive. You know, going back to the extremities, I want to keep those warm, and so I felt that buying a nicer pair of gloves was going to be worth it for me. Now, because these were expensive, I don't want to be using these personally to be doing a lot of firewood prep because it's just going to tear these apart. And again, guys, I don't have money flowing out my ear, so I got to take care of the gear that I've had. So that's why, in addition, I brought these leather working gloves, but these are also an insulated. Now these are going to help keep my fingers warm, but more so for the fire prep. I knew we were going to be doing a lot of that, and so I brought these in addition so that I could wear these instead of these doing that fire prep. A lot of things I brought up, or in addition what I brought up in the video, is that one thing about gloves and tying knots and all that kind of stuff, you get a big, thick, heavy pair of gloves here, it's so hard for that dexterity. And that's why it's nice to have a pair of gloves like this. Even then, sometimes I can't get done what I want to get done with these. I just need that dexterity. But another advantage of gaining that dexterity that these offer versus a bigger pair is, for example, stuffing my sleeping bag back in the stuff sack. With that synthetic material and those type of temperatures without gloves, just using my hands, it is extremely cold to the fingers. And so if you can just have a barrier like this in between that and it still offers you dexterity, it helps a lot. And subsequently, the tripod that this camera is sitting on, the steel just absorbs all that cold. And for me to be running the camera with these type of gloves, it can be done, but it's kind of aggravating. Again, I need something that allows a little more dexterity, but offers a little bit of barrier between me and those items that really, really just absorb that cold. And it makes a huge difference on your fingers. So that's the look at the gloves. Now let's move up to the head. I've gone through a lot of beanies in the past, and in my opinion, they are not created equal. I've got some that I just don't like, and unfortunately I lost my favorite one. It was a nice fleece one. So I tend to look for stuff that's a fleece and it's all one piece. So this is a North Face. There's all different kinds of beanies out there though that work just as well. That just happens to what I have. And then in addition to this, what I really, really like are these buffs, I think is what they're called. I always forget. But these things, it's just a tube, basically. And you saw it in that video. You can see it's kind of stretchy material this way. It doesn't stretch so much this way, actually. A little bit, but very little this way. But these things can be worn in so many different manners. You can put it on and it acts more of a scarf around your neck. And that's a part of the body that often gets ignored with all of this stuff and can get really cold. So you want to have something to help protect that. So this can go just on the neck itself. You can pull this up over your chin, up over your nose to help keep your mouth and nose warm, kind of that ninja look going on there. And also, this can be folded up and turned into a beanie. So I use this a lot during the winter, during the summer, just at night when it still can get down to 32 degrees where I go backpacking in the summer, and that helps keep my head warm. Very nice, very thin, but this is very, very versatile. So to me, this and this really helps in that scenario when you're down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit weather. There's a look at my system, guys. It worked very well out there. I've been doing this long enough now where I'm getting it really squared away. Always learning new stuff though. Every time I go out, I learn new stuff. But I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this can help you guys. We'll see you.